Okay, it's time now for some business news, and for that I'm joined on set by Yuka Huaye from our business desk. And Yuka, we're starting with the Turkish lira, which has collapsed after President Recep Tayyip Erdogan fired the country's central bank chief.
Well, Thomas, it's the third time the Turkish president has done so since the summer of 2019. Now, after the abrupt move late on Friday, the Turkish lira tanked as much as 17% against the dollar. It has since recovered a bit, currently down about 8%. Now, Erdogan wants to keep interest rates low. The ousting of the former central bank chief came 2 days after he raised interest rates to rein in inflation. The lira has lost around 30% of its value against the dollar in the past 2 years alone. The ousted former chief, Nasir Akbal, took the job only last November when the currency hit a record low. Since then, he raised rates to about 19%. Now, the newly appointed governor, Sahap Kapsioglu, has been critical of rate hikes, and he comes from Erdogan's political party. He has pledged not to make any sudden policy changes, but will have to tread carefully if he wants to keep his job.
Okay, Yuka, let's get some numbers now. How are the Asian markets faring at the current time?
Well, major indices are mixed this Monday at the start of the trading week. Tokyo's Nikkei closed down, as you can see, more than 2%, with automakers particularly hard hit.
Yuka, that drop in car makers' shares comes after a fire at a key semiconductor manufacturer.
Toyota and other Japanese car makers are scrambling. They say they're assessing the production impact after a fire at a Renesas electronics chip plant on Friday. Renesas says that it will take at least a month to restart production of a 300mm wafer line, a key component for modern cars. Renesas produces about 30% of global microcontroller chips for cars, so the impact could spread well beyond Japanese shores.
Now, in other business news, Aramco says that its profits nearly halved last year.
That's right. Well, Saudi Arabia's state oil giant says that net profit fell by almost 45%. This as the world's largest oil exporter saw demand plunge in the early months of 2020 because of the pandemic. It has not been able to produce much as the OPEC Plus cartel agreed to a production cut and maintains it. Aramco has scaled back some of its spending plans for 2021 because of this profit fall, and will shift its focus to China, where demand has recovered more quickly than in other parts of the world. Oil prices have recovered, though, this year and are already back to pre-pandemic levels.
Now, the coronavirus pandemic brought global film production to a near standstill, and Hollywood studios are not the only ones to be affected, Yuka.
Well, the Atlas Film Studios in the Moroccan town of Ouarzazate are often referred to as the Hollywood of Africa. A number of blockbuster movies and TV series have been shot there, but now locals are seeing their source of income all but disappear. Charlie James has this report.
Ever since Lawrence of Arabia put it on Hollywood's map, Ouarzazate, Morocco has been the backdrop for numerous hit movies and series. Game of Thrones and Gladiator, The Last Temptation of Christ and The Mummy. Its designation as the Hollywood of Africa spelled jobs for locals and a bustling tourism industry.
Por ejemplo, trabajar en Gladiator pequeño.
But COVID-19 took that all away in an instant.
Ahora un año no hay turistas y para buscar un trabajo aquí difícil porque toda la zona de Marrakech abajo la gente trabaja solo con turismo.
Ouarzazate's famed Atlas Film Studios have been silent, with the pandemic shutting down productions across the world. Before the pandemic, about 1,000 tourists a day would tour these film sets. Now there are fewer than 50. They may feel like they walked into their own personal movie.
Tout ce site pour rien que pour nous, donc ouais, c'est sympa. D'accord. C'est bien.
Morocco's finance ministry reported the nation's tourism revenue declined by nearly 54% in 2020. That represents $4.77 billion in lost spending. Ouarzazate's economy is heavily dependent on crowded blockbuster productions, but there will be no cameras rolling on these sets until global borders reopen.
That was Charlie James reporting there, and Yuka Huaye with the business news. Thank you very much.